going to give away a free t-shirt, ask and answer a question, bring you comics news, and reveal the books I bought this week. How y'all doing? I'm Victor, and you are watching the Comic Hero Show. Now kick that intro! Edition of the Comic Hero Show. I'm your host Victor Nunley, and I am the Comic Hero. This month is PCOS Awareness Month. Now PCOS, which stands for Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome, is a hormonal disorder causing enlarged ovaries with small cysts on the outer edges. Now the cause of PCOS isn't well understood, but it may involve a combination of genetic and environmental factors. Now symptoms include menstrual irregularity, excess hair growth, acne, and obesity. And complications from it include infertility, gestational diabetes or pregnancy-induced high blood pressure, miscarriage or premature birth, non-alcoholic steatohepatitis, which is a liver inflammation caused by fat accumulation in the liver, metabolic syndrome, which is a cluster of conditions including high blood pressure, high blood sugar, and abnormal cholesterol or triglyceride levels that significantly increase a woman's risk of cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes or prediabetes, sleep apnea, depression, anxiety, and eating disorders, abnormal uterine bleeding, and cancer of the uterine lining, which is also known as endometrial cancer. Now here in America, there are over 200,000 cases per year, and I know a few women who live with PCOS, and I can only imagine what they go through on a daily basis. I mean, some of these complications that they may experience, no woman should ever have to go through that. Alright, this is a PCOS Awareness Comic Hero tee. Inside the speech bubble you have the fist coming out. That is my way of encouraging every woman throughout the world who has PCOS to fight. And here on the left sleeve you have the words, September is Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome Awareness Month. And here on the right sleeve you have I wear teal for her. Now her isn't just one woman, it represents every woman throughout the world, near or far, who are living with PCOS. And if you would like a shirt of your own, you can find them on my website, IamTheComicHero.com, for $17. Alright, it's time to give away a free t-shirt. Alright, last week's episode I asked, which country in South America is the Yara 4 Wonder Girl from? Well, the correct answer is Brazil. And 8 people have answered correctly, and because they've answered correctly, your name's been entered in a drawing for a free tee. And that drawing takes place right now. So the winner of the free tee for this week's episode of the show is Kayla Perez from Pineville, Louisiana. So congratulations, Kayla. You get yourself a free Comic Hero tee. Alright, here's the question for next week's episode, and this is an X-Men question. Magneto magnetically removed the adamantium from Wolverine's skeletal system. Which X-Men villain restored it years later? Alright, here are the hints. The first hint is that this villain is one of the first mutants in the Marvel Universe. And I'm not talking about in terms of first appearance, I'm talking about in terms of time. Alright, the second hint is that this villain's real name is Saba Noor. Probably know who it is now. Alright, the third hint is that this villain debuted in X-Factor number 5 in 1986 and was originally the book's principal villain. And then the fourth and final hint, this is also a dead giveaway. This villain was the main villain in the X-Men movie in 2016 and was played by Oscar Isaac. Now I would tell you what the name of the movie is, but that would also be telling you the answer. And I'm not going to do that. Everyone who answers correctly will be entered in the drawing for a free tee on next week's episode of the show. So, I gotta ask, any questions?
Questions are walking around me. Questions that didn't drive in. Questions that will survive in. Questions.
Alright, I only one question for this week, and it's from Cheyenne Tamazi from West Monroe, Louisiana. She asked, would you be a villain or a hero, and why? Well, Cheyenne, I love that question, and you're going to love the answer. I would definitely want to be a hero. And it's not just in the name, and of course, comic hero. No, it has nothing to do with that. It's because this world is already, full of evil. And why be darkness when you can be the light? And that's my aim in all that I do in life. I always try to strive for good. I always strive for good because, I mean, there's so much evil, and where's the fun in that? Always do good. Always be the light in a time of darkness. Always be love in a time of hatred. All right, really love that question. Really love all these questions that y'all are asking. I really love asking and answering them. And y'all keep it up. Keep them up. Now, again, no personal questions. I will not ask or answer them. All right, now it's time for Comically Speaking. So without further ado, let's talk comics! Alright, there's only one thing we're going to talk about in this segment of Comically Speaking, and that's my review of the current volume of The Amazing Spider-Man. Now, this volume just started this past May, and I've gotten caught up with the first 8 issues. Now, apparently Spider-Man did something very, very wrong, and it was so severe to the point where members of the Marvel Universe, characters in the Marvel Universe like Mary J. Watson, the Avengers, and the Fantastic Four have all cut ties with him. And he eventually finds ways to vindicate himself. And the first thing he did was, even though he was kind of, he was actually tricked into doing this by Tombstone, he takes down this crime organization called that's led by a character in the Marvel Universe called the Rose. And then the Living Brain, which is another Spider-Man villain that really hasn't seen the light of day for a long time, ends up kidnapping all the members of the Sinister Six and building a new version of the Super Adaptoid. And this version somehow not only has the powers of all members of the Sinister Six, but also the personalities. Now, you're probably wondering who the Sinister Six are. Right now, it's Electro, Kraven the Hunter, Dr. Octopus, Vulture, the Sandman, and Mysterio. But Spider-Man does the unthinkable. He ends up freeing all 6 members of the Sinister Six, and they're having a hard time taking down the Super Adaptoid. But then Dr. Octopus does it by putting different thoughts in his head, and then all the personalities, the separate personalities of the Sinister Six that the Super Adaptoid possesses, ends up fighting each other and causing a Super Adaptoid to shut down. That and Spider-Man shares a very intimate moment via a kiss by the Black Cat. And then later, Norman Osborn, who's a changed man after the Sin Eater ends up ridding him of all the sins that he's done as both the Green Goblin and then the Red Goblin when he possessed the Carnage symbiote. And he restarts Oscorp, and he asks Peter to be on his top staff. At first, he thought that this was all a ruse, that he was trying to set him up for failure. So he says no thanks. And while he's leaving Oscorp, the Vulture shows up, and he's angry. Now, the Vulture, instead of taking responsibility for his actions, had blamed Spider-Man for his granddaughter no longer talking to him, and he almost kills him. But then he slips away, goes back to Oscorp. He gets the suit that Norman Osborn had offered him, and then he takes down the Vulture. And then he says, "Okay, I'm in." And that's where number 8 left off. But I'm really loving what's going on in this book. I mean, Zed Wells is no stranger whatsoever to the wall crawler. As a matter of fact, he was part of a group of writers and artists that were on the book back in 2007 when they started a new story arc called Brand New Day. And they really put Spider-Man through it. And I knew that when Wells was going to be back on the book, he was going to put Spider-Man through a lot of junk. And I love that. I love when writers come up with story arcs where the main character gets put through adversity, and at the end they still end up on top. And with John Romita Jr. back on the book, I mean that book is, I mean that was one of his earliest gigs was on the book, and this was after his father had stepped down as the artist, and so good to see him back on there. Although one of my all-time favorite artists, Ed McGuinness, did the artwork on The Amazing Spider-Man number 6, which served as the overall 900th issue. But I'm really loving the direction of the book, and I can't wait for more. All right, that's it for Comically Speaking. Now let's get to the comics I bought this week.
Comic books I bought this week.
All right, first up is The Amazing Spider-Man number 9. Avengers X-Men Eternals Judgment Day number 4. Really excited about this one. Batman vs. Robin number 1. Captain Marvel number 41. Daredevil number 3. Dark Crisis Worlds Without a Justice League, Wonder Woman. I Am Batman number 13. Iron Man number 23. Jane Foster and the Mighty Thor number 3. Savage Avengers number 5. Also excited about this one. Star Trek number 400. And check this out, double cover. Now this is in observance of Trek Day. It's also going to be the jumping on point for the new Star Trek series that's coming to IDW that I was just talking about last week. All right, Superman, Son of Kal-El, number 15. Venom, number 10. Wonder Woman number 791. And finally, X-Men Red number 6. All right, that's 15, which brings the total number of comics that I've bought since December of 1997 to 11,582. All right, well, I hope y'all enjoyed this week's episode. Here's a question again for a free tee for next week's episode of the show. Magneto magnetically removed the adamantium from Wolverine's skeletal system. Which X-Men villain restored it years later? All right, here are the hints again. The first hint is that this villain is one of the first mutants in the Marvel Universe. The second hint, this villain's real name is In Saba Noor. The third hint, this villain debuted in X-Men number 5 in 1986 and was originally the principal villain of the book. And then the fourth and final hint, this villain was the main villain in the X-Men movie in 2016 and was played by Oscar Isaac. Everyone who answers correctly will be entered in a drawing for a free tee on next week's episode of the show. And congratulations to Kayla Perez from Pineville, Louisiana, who won a free tee on this week's episode. All right, here's the road ahead for the show. On the next episode, which is episode 417, I'm going to raise awareness of prostate cancer. Now, I got a hold of the person that was supposed to be the guest on that episode. Due to some personal some things going on with them, they will not take part in this episode. Hopefully, I can get them on a future episode. So stay tuned for that. Then on episode 418, I'm going to raise awareness of the NICU. The NICU stands for the Neonatal Intensive Care Unit. I personally know some folks who have had children that spent their first days, weeks, or even months in the NICU. Some of them have recovered, and then some of them didn't make it, unfortunately. And then I also know some folks that spent their first few days, weeks, and months in the NICU as well, and they recovered, and they went on to grow up and live successful lives. And this episode is for them, their families, and in memories of those that didn't make it, and also in honor of all the doctors and nurses that have worked tirelessly to nurse these babies back to health. And then on episode 419, it's the 9th anniversary episode of the Comic Hero Show. And y'all, I'm so excited about this episode. I'm so excited that, I'm very blessed to have been doing the show this long. And I hope to, I just hope that when the week comes, y'all come and watch. On episode 420, I'm going to raise awareness of breast cancer. Now, for those of y'all that know me well enough, this hits home for me because my mom is a breast cancer survivor and has been for over a decade. And to all the women that are living with PCOS, y'all keep fighting. And if y'all too tired to fight, y'all let me know and I'll fight for you. See, this is, love is one of the many things that's going to get us through this crazy life. I mean, in times of trouble, in times of strife and division, love and helping others is what's going to get us through. Now, if you're watching this for the first time on YouTube or on the Comic Book Lovers Facebook page, welcome. And as soon as y'all done, hit subscribe. All right, I'm Victor Nunley on the Comic Hero. I'll see you next week for episode 417. So until then, be safe, be blessed, be a hero.